Good evening, friends. We've still got a few minutes. Maybe Jay will turn me down a little bit eventually. We've got a few minutes before we start, but I just wanted to let you know if you have any presentation stuff that we need to put on the computer. I know a few of you had things. Please, if you've not got it to me, now's the time to do it. Okay. Go ahead and continue. No. Well, I have okay. Yeah, I do have that. I didn't know that that's what we will. Okay. Give me a minute. I'll get again. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, I've got 7:02, so we can go ahead and get started. I've got yours. We'll bring it up when it's time. So, first of all, thank you for being here. I'm excited about this to find out where, because I don't know exactly where all the teams are at either. So this will be an exciting night for me, and I hope for you as well. I just want to remind you, and let's see, and of course it worked just a minute ago. I just want to remind you that this is not a time tonight to ask questions, to debate, to amend any plans. Tonight is just purely informational, okay? There will be a time when plans are looked at and questions can be asked, suggestions can be made, and things like that. So, but that's not tonight. This is just to kind of see where we're at in the process. So I've taken the liberty, I didn't print out an agenda, but if you don't mind, I've just got your stuff or your team's name on a slide, if I can get it to work here in a minute, and I'll just have you come up at that point. If you have stuff on the computer, I'll be glad to help you, or you can run it yourself if I can get this to work. Otherwise, just come up, one or two of you just come up front and share what you're doing, okay? Give me just a second. Okay, so that's convenient. Family search team is up, and Andy is away on a mission trip. But I do have a brief report to share with you. The Families First team has been up. Oh, you're here, Joe. Okay, I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were coming. Okay. Thanks, Joe.
So yeah, while they're away having fun with the teenagers in Chicago, I got some information to share with you. So basically the goal of our team is to reach families in the community, cultivate relationships, and hopefully invite them into our church, make sure their needs are being met. A couple of the projects that we're looking at right now is to get books in the local parks for the kids, where they have the give a book, take a book booths. We want to get books in there, preferably about Jesus and God, and have our church's address sticker or stamp in the front of the book so they know where it came from. We're also looking to either find people in the church already who are from an atypical family, or find people we know in the community, invite them in so we can find out, is our church meeting their needs? If not, what can we do to better meet those needs? We've also, over the past year, we didn't get to do a whole lot, obviously because of COVID, but we did get to go in partnership with Charles Huber Elementary, and we gave gift bags out to the teachers there. Hopefully you saw the signs around the community saying we were praying for our teachers in our schools, so that was part of our project as well. We're hoping in the fall that we're going to be able to partner with them again, as well as Rushmore Elementary, and also with a fellowship of Christian athletes at Wayne High School, as we really want to build that relationship with our school district and hopefully be able to create those partnerships that way and get some of the community into the church. We've also supported over the last year the trunk or treat, the Easter egg hunt, to try to bring some of that joy to the families and the community as well. So hopefully with everything getting back to normal, we'll be able to do a lot more of that, get a lot more of our community into our church, and get those relationships developed. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. I don't know if this really fits under Families First, but I do want to just let you know, Candy has worked really hard to get Sunday school curriculum together and get the Sunday school classes back on track. And we're hoping probably sometime this fall to resume those Sunday school classes. So that's one of the things she's been working very hard on as well. Okay, guest welcome team. When you're ready for the layout, I'll bring it up.
Okay, so for guest welcome, we had basically two tasks. One was to look at our welcoming teams and see where we could add to that, not necessarily improve it, but just, I guess, be more effective at greeting the guests that come into our church. So the second task we had was to revamp the gathering area to make it more welcoming, have more places for people to be able to sit and fellowship. So as far as the greeters, we've talked about quite a few things. We'll have a welcome desk in the gathering area where we'll have people there to greet guests as they come in. We want to try to have two people there, so one person could possibly take someone like down to the nursery or direct them to different areas. So there's always someone there at the desk. We are in the process of making welcome bags to hand out. We have some very basic ones right now. I'm hoping to have a team meeting in the next couple weeks so we can get a team set up to finalize what we want to do, what type of bags we want to use, what materials we want to put in that. So we have something that looks a little bit more professional. We have talked about partnering with Men of Action to have people in the parking lot, maybe to direct people to the doors. I know we have people that come through the circle that drop people off that have mobility issues, so making sure we have people available to help people in and out of their cars or have umbrellas when it's raining. We think that's important to make sure that we're taking care of people as they're coming in. And we had a book, a lot of the teams had a book that they read. One of the things that was recommended was to have several people stay in the sanctuary at the close of service. And what their job would be is to find the guests that are here, that are visiting with us, and just very just very casual, just thank them for coming to visit us. Just maybe share a little information about the church, ask them if they had been to the welcome desk, just to let them know that, hey, we noticed you're here, we're glad you're here. Maybe answer any questions they have. So that's one of the things we want to try to, some of the things we're talking about doing. Plus just the normal greeters at the doors, that type of thing. So, and we've been working really hard on, we have a team working really hard on revamping the guest welcome area. And Barry's got a slide for us here. So up at the top, we'll have our hospitality table. We'll have some type of coffee pot or dispenser for coffee. Will the food be on that area too, Peggy? Is that what? Yeah, the food items. So whatever food we have for that Sunday will be in that area. Then we have along where the ramp is, we will extend out the counter, and then we'll put a ledge on the back of it so nothing can be pushed off and fall off onto the ramp behind there. But that will be a standing counter for people if they want to stand there and drink their coffee or just visit with someone. And then the welcome desk is right here. It's going to be kind of a half circle. We're still deciding on our signage. I know we're working with the signage team, correct, Peggy? As far as, you know, what type of signage would be best for that. But like I said, we'll have 2 people there. The welcome bags will be there, and then they'll be, directing people where they need to go and answering questions. We've got a food collection area. We'll be up there by the water fountain, by the window. We've talked about someone building the bins that would be on wheels, and those will be for easy taking them out to the parking lot to load up into the cars for whatever we're collecting. We've got cafe tables with chairs, so people will be able to actually sit down if they are more comfortable with that. Several areas there, and then we'll have some more couches type seating for people to sit on with some tables in certain areas there. So that's what we're looking at for the area. The team right now is working on getting some price quotes on some of the work that would need to be done, the price of the tables and everything. So hopefully soon we'll be able to take that, I believe, to the trustees, right, Amy? Yeah. Take all that information to the trustees and, you know, go from there. So we're really excited about the plan that they've drawn up for the gathering area. We think it's really going to make people like they're in their living room. So, but yep.
I didn't forget anything, did I?
No, I don't think so.
Is everything movable? Are we still going to be able to have refutables and things so that?
This is not a time question.
Sorry, I came in late. I missed that.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'll say, this is informational only. This is not time to ask questions, comments, amend, anything like that. So, sorry. Just hit escape. Get it out of there. It's not going to set his voice.
The website research team is really a subset of extravagant hospitality. So we have a team that has really a pretty broad composition in terms of age, gender, attendance at the respective campuses, and so forth. So these are the folks that have been actively working on this. What we've been doing is principally meeting by Zoom. We have yet to have an in-face meeting with our team. And most of the work has been done individually, but we get together by Zoom to collaborate and compare notes and discuss things and plan tasks and assign them accordingly. We did a lot of research getting ready to do what we do. We've consulted with 2 MCCI prescription coaches. We had one to begin with, and then when West Ohio Conference had their double shuffle, we ended up with a different one. And so we've consulted with them. One of the team members attended a 9-hour social media academy course, which was 3 3-hour sessions with Brad Aycock, who is part of the West Ohio Conference Church Development Group, but he's also very active in dealing with social media and online presence. So this entire academy was dealt with social media and the online presence for churches. The team looked at 22 different websites, 10 United Methodist churches, 10 other churches, and 2 commercial ones. The 2 commercial ones, one was a botanical garden, and the other was the city of Huber Heights. One of the comments that was made is, since the folks that we're trying to reach are the curious and the seekers, we're going to find them principally here in Huber Heights. So let's see what the city does to get an idea of how we might fit together with the city. We've interviewed 2 different website construction companies regarding their capabilities, their timing, the cost, and the support. We had a consensus on several items. One is that there should be one website for Sulphur Grove Church and specific pages for Taylorsville specific information and the Y specific information, but many of the pages provide joint information. We also said that we're trying to reach the curious and the seekers. And to do so, you've got to get them within the first 2 or 3 clicks. First 2 or 3 times they click that mouse, you've got to hook them. And so we want to build a website that reaches them first. Now, as members, we like to use the website. We want to get information from the website. So you're going to have to look a little bit harder or know exactly where you want to look and then bookmark it, rather than wade your way through several clicks to get there. But all that information will be there. We felt that current photography and timely input of the web page is an absolute must-have. It's embarrassing to me to look on the website and see pictures of youth who now have gray beards and have children in the youth group. That's a little dated. Timely coordination of web page content with the social media is a desired outcome also, because we want to reach people, and not everybody uses the same method for communication. Some people prefer email. Some people prefer the web page. Some people prefer Instagram. Some people prefer Facebook. But you've got to have the same information across all platforms to make sure the word gets out as broadly as possible in a way that people find most comfortable to use. We also think we should have a web page constructed professionally and a plug-and-play capability for Sulphur Grove staff. And what we mean by that is that we've encountered a substantial lag time between the time we generate information and the time it appears on our web page. We want to be able to get it out on the web page, in social media, yesterday, not 3 weeks from now. Stale information is no good to anybody, so we need to get it out and get it out quickly. And it needs to be consistent across all platforms. One of the terms that Social Media Academy used was called branding. Now that sounds awfully commercial, but to distill it down is when someone sees the word Sulphur Grove, they know like that what it means, because it's everywhere. They see it everywhere. Now, I don't know whether you've noticed or not, I got kind of sneaky with what I was doing. See that? That's the logo that appears on every slide, because we want you to all see that it's Sulphur Grove Church. So every bit of communication is going to have the same kind of image with it. It may not be this logo, but it's one we happen to use at the present time. And we think that the website contractor should be available on an as-needed basis. Yeah, things are going to break. We're going to encounter new technology capabilities that we want to introduce into our communication system. So we may need some guidance and some advice and some help putting that together. But we don't need to call the webmaster every day and say, did you put the new calendar on? we're going to do that ourselves. So those are some of the things that we agreed we needed to do. So where are we? Right now, we're at a beta version of a website. I would like you to copy down that website address, please. HTTPS. The S means it's secure. That's one of the things we said is a must. It must be a secure website. //sulphurgrove.thechurchco.com. Okay. I'll leave it up there so you can see it. There's the beta version. The reason I gave you the website, I want you all to try to break it. That's what a beta version does. It's a work in progress.
I can email everybody.
Yeah. But what it is it's a work in process. Yes, it says the Church Co. in part of the website address, but that will go away when we get to our final version. But for right now, it's on the Church Co.'s website. Go with it, play with it, look at it all over, turn it inside out, upside down, do anything you can to it. And then either, I'll just poke around a little bit here and see if we can get it to, I don't know whether I can get it to play. I did at home, but I'm trying to find the arrow right now. Nah. Well, as you can see, it's up here. One of the things that we've got as an introduction is we have a picture here, and it rotates through a picture of Taylorsville, a picture of the choir, and then a picture of the Y. Those can be changed. The order can be shuffled around. So that's what we mean with the beta version. We're continuing to play with it and try to make things work. You're going to hear a report later tonight that shows you use of a gear as a symbol. And we've talked about replacing these geometric shapes with gears. We're still looking to see if we can do that. But that's one of the ideas we have, because that indicates working together. And that's what we want to indicate with the church. But you'll see that this is intended to reach out to the curious and the seeker to plan a visit. If you click on that, your choices will become, what do I wear? What do I expect? When does it happen? What happens to my kids? How do I get there? Yeah, can you see if you could poke around a little bit and show them some of the things that'll come up? There we go. Again, this language is just for purposes of having language in there. It's not carved in stone, but it's just an idea of what can be done. If you clicked on the Taylorsville campus or the tradition and liturgical, this comes up, and you see service times, what to expect, what should I wear, what about my kids? And then drop-down menus give you a little bit of text information about what to expect when you get there. Barry, can you back up and go to the one for the Y? Okay, then you can pick contemporary and casual. and the why pops up. Same questions: when, where, what, who. All of that information is right there and available for someone to learn about Sulphur Grove. You'll also notice that there was a third choice: I can't come today. That's the lead-in to the online service. So that right there on the first page, either come to Taylorsville, come to the Y, or join us online. And you can click on one of the 3 campuses if you know what campus you want. But if you're looking for a style or information about a style, it's a little different way to get there. Can you scroll down a little bit more, Barry? Then on the same page, we have, keep going down, we have the family ministries, Grove Kids, Grove Youth. And these are the logos that the youth group is currently using. And so by clicking on those logos, it'll tell you about the youth programs, the kids and the teenagers that are there. And we've got events, parent resources, social events, and how to contact. Now, the good news about all of this is, yes, you're seeing something in writing and something on the screen, but it's all modifiable. So what we're hoping to do with you all going into the website, the second task you have, besides trying to break it, is let us know what we forgot. What doesn't make sense? By clicking on this link, what did you expect to see and what did you see? Do we need to change that in some way? Is there information that we need to include that we have not included? Do you go into sensory overload looking at stuff? You know, all of those kinds of questions. The more input we get, the better this can be. But the first thing you're looking at is you are not a member of Sulphur Grove. You live in the community and you're looking for a church home. That's the role you're playing when you're asking those questions. Are we reaching those folks? We're not really trying to make the folks sitting in the pews feel more comfortable. They do that pretty well on their own. What we're trying to do is reach the folks in the community who will want to become part of us and be one of those comfortable folks sitting in the pew. Be part of the Sulphur Grove family. With your comments, there's an email address there, which is mine, and it's in the church directory. The second email address is Eric, and that's his home email address, and I believe that's also in the directory. So that's where we are. We've got a beta version. We're working on it, but it needs input, and we're asking for your input. We're also gathering current photographs and writing additional text. Now, we're not asking that you all provide us photographs. We're not asking that you all provide us text. What we're asking is, what do we need a picture of that we don't have? Part of the problem with technology is that if it isn't in the same format, if it doesn't work the same way as everything else you're working, it doesn't play nice. So what we're asking is topics that we can cover to make sure that the technology fits and that we're not embarrassed with something that doesn't work. We're also coordinating our efforts with the other MCCI teams to make sure we're all on the same page. Back to that word branding. If we don't send forth to the community a consistent, constant message in a timely manner, we're going to lose them. The chances, because other people are doing it. Now, I'm not saying we should do something just because everybody else does it, but it's one of those situations, if we don't do it, we lose. So that's why we want to do it. And it's going to be something that we can refresh every hour if we have to. One of the things in the social media seminar, or academy, they talked about taking Instagram blurbs from mission trips, taken instantaneously and posting on your website to see what a mission team is doing that day. It has that kind of capability. Now I know that there are some folks who don't like Tex-Mex food, so we don't take pictures of the food we're having at the, on the McCurdy mission trip. But there are other people who do. So they can see our fellowship together. Those kinds of things. The team will consider a recommendation for a communications coordinator. We'll try to put that recommendation together. What we see is that this needs to be a staff position to get the to be the gatherer of the information and the coordinator of the message to make sure that it remains consistent. Right. Ladies used to make gorgeous patchwork quilts, and they were admired greatly for the effort that went into them and the hours that people put in them. That's a bygone day. If we have a website that looks like a patchwork quilt, people may admire the effort that went into it, but it really doesn't do any good for them. It doesn't meet their need at that moment. And that's what we have to have, are communication tools that meet their needs and answer their questions now. Because we are a now society. You want instant gratification? Turn on the tube. And you don't even have to get out of your chair. You can use a button. That's the society we have, and that's the society we're trying to reach. Next slide, please, Barry. Oh, I've got the control. I'll do it there. Any questions? Yeah, I know, no questions. If you have questions, I'll play off this. I'll be here later. You can talk to me. Just a secret, but don't tell Barry. I don't want, I don't want to change his rules. Thank you.
Okay, space utilization team.
Has everyone received a printed report? Does anyone need a printed report? Okay, great. The space utilization team has been meeting. We had our first meeting on March the 2nd, 2020, and it was just before the pandemic hit. And we organized, we toured the lower and upper shelled space, and shortly thereafter, the pandemic hit, and we closed the church. And the building was closed for several months, and then when the church reopened for worship, we were only using this room. So it was difficult for us to do a survey of how the building was being used. And as a consequence, rather than, because there was nothing known as normal daily space utilization, so instead we've been monitoring past, current, and projected building use. And the chart, which is the second sheet on there, is a listing of what we have. And I would really invite you to look that over. If you have information to add to it, maybe there are activities that aren't on here, or maybe there's information on here that is either incomplete or needs further elaboration, please either see Bill Baker or myself, and we'll try to get that added. This is a work in progress. We know that things are going to move and change, but we're trying to track how the facilities are being used. Now, with the vaccinations and so forth, we've been able to have meetings. We've actually met 3 times since the middle of March this year, and we reached consensus that we believe that the lowered shelled space should be improved for use for youth ministries. Now that's something that I guess needs to probably go to church council for final action, but that's where the trustees have asked Ryan Buffenbarger to do cost estimates on what it would cost to do those improvements. We also think that reserving rooms 302 and 303 in the evening exclusively for church meetings and activities has been very helpful for ministry. Some groups were worried that they may not be able to have space to meet, and that has really alleviated a lot of that apprehension. The team has also discussed possible future uses of the former library, which was on the lower level in rooms 106, 107. And we noted that that part of the building does not have heating or air conditioning. It also needs new lighting, probably new flooring, and will be pretty expensive to use. And so one of the possibilities is when the youth get moved upstairs, the youth room, which is room 108, and there's a large storage area adjacent to that, connects with that former library area. So it's a large area that could be redeveloped. And one possibility is we have things stored in every nook and cranny in this church, and we're thinking that possibly it might be wise to use at least a portion of that space for a more organized storage. It would be dry, it would be safe, it would be accessible. So that's one possibility. We also notice on the 300 level, the upper level, between 2 classrooms, there is a former children's restroom that has not been used for several years, and we think probably one possible way would be to cap that off, and that would be another area that could be either used for storage or for some other purpose. The team has also discussed the possible future uses of Holden Chapel. We note that the 2 rooms on either side of the choir loft or the chancel area there is being used for storage, and it's now not well organized. There's been some conversation about whether replacement of the pews with more flexible seating would make it more usable for worship and for other ministry activities. Decisions have not been made, recommendations are not being made, but we want you to be thinking about, is that a possible use for Holden Chapel? We're also aware that there have been discussions about relocating the contemporary worship services that are currently meeting at the Huber Heights YMCA. And if there is a desire to relocate those ministries here at Taylorsville, we believe there would be places where worship could be held and classrooms and other facilities would be available for ministry. And we know that that decision is probably a little ways down, but we thought it was important to lift that up, because if that kind of ministry moves here to Taylorsville, it will alter what we can do in terms of plans for the future. And the last thing I would say is we believe it's important for the church council, for groups or individuals, to identify future activities and building uses before the team can develop prioritized recommendations that are called for in the prescriptions. And I guess I'm not supposed to take questions, am I? So if you have any comments or suggestions, we would welcome it. There are about 17 of us on the team, and why don't we just ask team members, just lift your hand so that we know who you are. And if you have suggestions or ideas, I would really encourage you to talk to one of us, because we're very interested in trying to meet the needs for ministry, trying to reach new families, and we think that we can only do this when we do it together. Thank you.
Thanks, Don. Yeah, I hope you understand I'm not trying to stifle any conversation, but it's already 7:42, and if we ask questions, we would be here till 10 o'clock. Okay. Campus Synchronization Team.
I don't have that deep speaking voice that you all have. Can you hear me back there? Okay. Does anyone need, this is Deb, she's my assistant. She's going to hand out any copies of this if you need it. This is a copy of what we provided to Church Council as a report on their last meeting, I believe was June 9th is when we did it. I did not prepare slides. I'm just going to give you the highlights from this because you do have it in your hands. Also, Deb is handing out a little gift for you to help you visualize as we talk. Okay. So first off, our synchronization team prescription, we were tasked to look at what does it practically mean to be one church, two locations, and then how can we consistently communicate across each of our campuses with consistent message. Very much what Skip was sharing with social media. It came out very clearly that we need a consistent communication across all avenues, whether that be online or otherwise. We also were asked to look at what events, worship activities would be intentionally done each year at both campuses, or where campuses could join together to provide opportunities for friendship and a sense of being one church, accomplishing the mission together. And then that we would share that information with church. So we have started that with the Church Council. We've been meeting also since 2020, and we met only one time in person. All the rest have been through Zoom. Thank you, pandemic. So here we are tonight. First thing we want to tell you is we worked really hard. We wanted to think about what synchronization meant to us and what it did not mean. Also, we learned that it's no matter what church campus you're on, that we each have a context and it may look different, and that happens in multi-site churches. We also reviewed several models of for multi-site campuses brought to us from Barry based on some other conferences and things that he's been to that informed his knowledge of multi-site campuses as he was coming here as the lead pastor. Does that reflect what you were? Okay. So here's what we learned. Synchronization is not each location having different mission statements. Were you aware that we had two separate mission statements? Maybe some of you did and some didn't. So they're listed there. I'm not going to read them to you. It is not a combined service on one campus or the other. Actually, what we found out was those are the least attended services every time, regardless of what campus. And if you're sitting in the pew, are you really getting to know each other? Probably not, because you're supposed to be listening to whoever's at the front speaking, right? And helping us learn and grow. So we also found out that it doesn't mean that the exact same message is offered at each campus. And a couple things that came up that we needed to address. Sulphur Grove at the Y is not a church plant, meaning a new church going off on its own. And Sulphur Grove at the Y is also not a feeder church where members of the Y then become members of the Taylorsville campus. We are all one Sulphur Grove. So we felt that we wanted to say what we're not, what we think it's not. And then we have some definitions. Synchronization is the operation of two or more things at the same time or rate. Or it's synchronous, happening, existing, or arising at the same time. So as our group met, we kept thinking and coming back to a clock. Imagine a fancy clock with all those gears, and they're all doing something. Some go the same direction and some don't. But when they're all working together, synchronous, the clock works really well, and we believe that at Sulphur Grove, we all have a part to play, hence the gear you got that Deb handed out. And so it's to remind you that all of the gears can move in multiple kinds of ways and many different directions, but ultimately we need to be one fantastic group moving to meet what God plans for us to do, which is to reach disciples, because the Methodist mission statement, church statement, is to make disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world, which informs all that Sulphur Grove does. So we believe that if we are all aligned with that, no matter what gear we are or what motion we're making, then we are going in the direction that God intends for Sulphur Grove. So our context is that we are one church with multiple campuses designed to reach people for Christ, where the campus has its own context, specific demographic, and worship style to meet the diverse needs of our community and our congregation. So we don't all look alike, and how we meet needs doesn't always look the same. There is a servant guide connecting our church to the community, and it's a booklet that LaToya helped put together that talks about all the different things that are available within Sulphur Grove Church. And so we believe that's a good place for jumping off into helping organize, like Skip was showing, where things would go on social media, and if I was trying to connect, how would I connect with that? We believe going forward, we need to communicate with a menu of opportunities to connect, grow, serve, and go. Those were the 4 icons that were on the Sulphur Grove branding that Skip showed us. They can be used both internally and externally to help people navigate through the information that they're seeking. We believe it will be important to look at the primary purpose of each menu item that's in that guide, and are there other things that should have been included that weren't? And also to consider where we're going moving forward, that what exists now doesn't mean we shouldn't have more stuff coming. So and also communication was a huge piece of what we talked about and how it needed to be consistent. We recognize that we can offer it in any number of ways. People are going to look for where they look the most, and how I look for communication and information may not look like what you do. And even when we provide it, doesn't mean that everybody reads it or sees it or remembers it, and that's okay too. We need to provide many different platforms for it. And so we believe the activity or program is not fixed by location, but instead it's about, are we growing disciples for Jesus? Okay, so our recommendations for the church council were to develop a joint unified mission statement where the new statement embraces all. So it reflects how we see ourselves, is dynamic, and that we're a growing Christian community. And this is really important. It's written in plain language that is understandable for the unchurched. That, I want to say Andrew Campbell was on our team and he had to step away from it, but that was something he was very passionate about, feeling very, very strongly that we need to make sure that we make our communication that is understandable for someone not familiar with us. And that they can learn and grow with us. And so I think I just wanted to really hold that up because that was so very, very important for him. And I know he couldn't stay on our committee, but I thought it was very important for you to know he really felt passion for that, and I wanted to honor that. And then we wanted to incorporate connect, grow, serve, and go if that is what council decides we should keep that 4 logos there, and then create a structure to communicate opportunities for that, and that way everyone can look for the interests and passions that they have, and that's where you're going to build those relationships intentionally, is when you're coming together where you have like passions and that you find each commonalities with each other, and that's where we really believe that's how we're going to be intentional, not about being in the same church pew or the same service at the Y. Instead, it's really, we're all going in the right direction. We're all a gear and a cog in the system, and we're all going to be a beautiful clock. And for those of you that already heard my spiel of this church council, I hope I've said it a little differently tonight that makes it at least not as boring, not too boring. Thank you.
Thanks, Ruth.
And by the way, thank you to my team. There are some here and some not, and I'm not going to list them all because I'll forget someone.
The Breakthrough Prayer Team, did you want to say something, Diane? Okay.
While this team hasn't had to gather and come up with as many exciting plans as the other groups have, we have met, and under the presumption that none of this is going to be possible without God. And so for us to supply you a breakthrough prayer to stay in your heart all week seems like a small job, but so the big job comes from you praying that prayer and moving us forward in this. So we mostly concentrate, if you see the breakthrough prayer in your communications, which I'm not sure that it's that available to everybody. I don't know if the Y sees it, but it's in our bulletin. We say it every week, and then it should be in the list of things going on this week. Yeah. So that breakthrough prayer is what was on our hearts when we created it. We've learned, it's not, 3 paragraphs long now. It's much shorter. And we focus on asking God for a miracle. And those will be updated throughout the program here and there, but it's mostly about God and what you are doing to make all of our committees work.
Thank you. Yeah. And, I'm going to try to be more deliberate because we have some new folks at both campuses, I believe, explaining what breakthrough prayer is. And it's a good time for me to remind you. And it's called breakthrough prayer and not just a prayer. The MCCI very deliberately chose that wording because we're asking God to perform a miracle, to work in a miraculous way. So I don't know about you, but I don't think most of us, including myself, are used to praying for miracles, maybe in healing situations and things like that, but I don't think we're used to praying for miracles. But that's what we're doing with with breakthrough prayer. The Triads team, this is kind of an offshoot of the Families First team. Candy got stuck with it as well, but there is a team, and I want to apologize to that team. We went ahead and planned some triads just because groups that were supposed to be planning didn't work out, and we kind of had to pick up the pieces for the 150th. So anyway, if you saw the list of events we have planned for the summer and fall around our 150th. So that's what we've been working on, and right now we're working to put those pieces together. Okay, staff maximization. Team leader is Amy, but since I'm the one who studied the report very, very thoroughly, I'm going to do the presentation. As a part of the MCCI, it was offered to us to have a couple of the coaches who do this for the West Ohio Conference to take a look at all of our staffing. They interviewed Marty and I extensively, and they did what they call a staffing audit. And the report came back with several recommendations, and I want to share those with you. As far as the pastoral responsibilities, specifically Marty and I, they have suggested that we add what's called an executive pastor position. And what an executive pastor does is deal with a lot of the day-to-day operations kind of things. Now, I've got this in a later slide, but I want to just say it up front. This staffing audit, all the recommendations they have been made in such a way that we can shuffle around the money in our staff budget to make this happen. It does not increase the amount of money we're going to spend on staffing. It stays the same. The intent was not to decrease it, it's just to maximize the staff we have. So their suggestion is that Marty, the associate pastor, would fill this role, and he would supervise all of the non-ministerial staff. Currently, it falls on me to supervise all the staff. The lead pastor would supervise only the ministerial staff, meeting the pastors and Candy and Eric. It also recommended keeping the congregational care pastor position at 15 to 20 hours per week. You're obviously aware we haven't replaced that since LaToya left. And they broke out adult discipleship, and that would be my responsibility. It's not my responsibility to teach all the adult discipleship, but it's my responsibility to oversee that program. Basically, I'm not sure we had anybody who was officially designated for adult discipleship. Oh, and the other thing, I think it's become very customary in our United Methodist Church that the pastors are expected to be at every meeting. I know pastors who go to literally every meeting, including the UMW. And not that I don't love the UMW, but I've never gone to the UMW meetings. So anyway, they have suggested in the report that Marty and I split those meetings. Even though we may think so, it's really not necessary for both of us to be at trustees. It's not really necessary for both of us to be at finance. So anyway, it makes better use of our time. We're not sitting in as many meetings. Yep, both do not need to attend all meetings. One of the surprises, I think, for all of us was they recommended decreasing Eric's position to 20 hours per week. Now, please hear this. This is not any denigration of the importance of youth ministry. It's simply, remember, these coaches have a good idea what's going on conference-wide. And I'll tell you, for example, at Ginghamsburg, as big as Ginghamsburg is, their rule of thumb is you're half-time unless you have more than 50 kids. So that's really, it's not because you're supposed to have servants to help you. It's not done just by the youth pastor. So anyway, this was probably the biggest surprise. And again, that brings it into line with the current number of youth we have. If the youth group would explode, certainly, I would hope SBRC and Church Council would look at increasing hours. Now, none of us want to see Eric get hurt financially. So, and I think it's a God thing, because Eric is very gifted to do some of these things I'm about to mention. But they're recommending a new communication social media coordination person. And I happen to believe that Eric is very gifted for that. So again, that would bring back a number of hours back to his position. They're also recommending we add an online minister, but they said pastor, but I want to be very careful how we use the term pastor. In the United Methodist Church, pastors are either licensed or ordained. So I don't believe it's proper to call someone without those credentials pastor. I prefer the term minister. So, and I don't have time to go in what that would entail, but it's someone, and I think it's great that it would be the same person, because there'd be communication, social media, but this would be the person who would answer like emails that come from the website, for example. So anyway, or if someone needed prayer, or now if they need counseling, I hope that they would be referred to Marty or myself. And again, that's not that Marty and I are that qualified more than anyone else. We are certainly, I hope, for spiritual counseling, but actually it's a legal issue. Churches have been sued for poor counseling, and the lay people, the non-licensed, the non-ordained people are not covered under most insurance policies. They really didn't have any recommendations for the children's director position. They think that position is working well. I failed to put it in there, but also Ray, the treasurer, they think that position is working well. As far as I didn't put a whole lot in about the administrative assistants in the office because we're still really working through. We're still working through that. But they did have some recommendations in the office. Other recommendations is to consider hiring a full-time or three-quarter-time custodian. One of the primary reasons is just to get more bang for our buck. It also will take some load off the trustees. I hope you take a moment to thank our trustees, especially who are the main snow removers, John Ross and Amy, and that's about it. Yeah, I mean, we expect, I got to be honest with you, the pastor by discipline is the chair of the nominations committee, and I feel a little disingenuous when I'm a part of recruiting trustees, and all of a sudden they get to the first meeting and they find out that they have to sign up for a monthly rotation to check and make sure all the doors are locked. They have to sign up to remove snow, and I just believe it's time for Sulphur Grove to start handling these positions like the size church it is, not expecting volunteers to come in on Sunday morning before church and through the week to clean our sidewalks of snow. And that's something that a custodian could do. They also recommended much more accountability in our staffing structure. Each staff member should set goals and be held accountable for those goals each year, and so forth. And again, I want to say it again, all these recommendations in this audit do not increase the overall staffing budget. It's just a shuffling around of the staffing dollars we have to, in the opinion of the writers of this report, to maximize the efficiency of our staff. Okay? Oh, how did I forget signage? I am so sorry. Well, No, let's do signage first. Give me a moment to load up signage. Go ahead, Ryan. I don't think this is going to see how this is going.
It's all right, I can get started while you're loading that. So, yeah, here I am for the signage team. So Rita Carmen and I have been working with a team, a pretty good-sized team. I don't know the exact number off my head because it has kind of fluctuated over time, but we're in the neighborhood of 15 to 20, so it's a pretty good-sized team. But our mandate is also pretty large, right? We are supposed to be looking at interior and exterior signage at the Y and interior and exterior signage at Taylorsville here. And that's not just, signs inside the building and a few outside the building. That's also looking at the road. What do we have along the road here? And there was a time too, you might recall that down at the corner of Taylorsville and Brant, there was a lot for sale down there. Unfortunately, it's not anymore, but we were looking at that, trying to find out, could we afford to buy that lot? Could we convince them to give it to us so that we could put a sign down at the corner? Because there's a lot more traffic. Taylorsville has a decent amount of traffic, but Brant has a lot of traffic, and so we really wanted to try and make that happen. And on the day we were going to go over there and kind of walk around and look at it, Sharon discovered that it had been sold. So that's no longer an option for us. I can't imagine why anybody would want that lot. Small, terrible location, but yeah. So anyway, we're not looking at that option anymore. So what the presentation that I have for you here is, I'll call it snippets of a number of documents that were put together for us based on cooperation within the team, discussion within the team, and the world's best coach. We have a fantastic coach on the signage team. She is on the ball. She knows what she's doing. She has experience in a broad range of areas, and she has been absolutely fantastic. And so she's given us she's given us some multiple documents with a lot of information in them. It has the technical information, color schemes, fonts, sizes, sign types, that sort of thing. And she has really helped us see this as a holistic thing, right? What we're really doing is wayfinding. It's a wayfinding system. And most people are probably familiar with that if you've gone into a large building. Particularly hospitals tend to be very good at it. Where you walk in the door, usually you can find where you're going just by looking at the sign in front of you, and it's going to point you somewhere else. And then you're going to see another set of signs, and that's going to help you get somewhere else. So that's what we're looking at for both campuses as well. So looking at what we have here for the Y, I don't think I'm going to go through everything that's on each of these pages, but hopefully you can kind of see this. I'm more than happy to share the documents with you so that you can actually see all the detail. I couldn't possibly go through it. There's probably 30 pages of documentation that she's put together for us. So I grabbed a lot of the pictures. So yeah, we were talking at, Barry, if you just go back for a second, I'll just touch on the highlights here. So at the Y, we're looking at possibly some new signs or new inserts for the metal signs that get put out there. We're looking at putting up at least one TV, perhaps in the hallway outside of Marty's office there. And we have some ideas about what we'd like to actually show on that TV. Marty has had discussions with them, and they're open to us putting possibly an electronic sign outside the front door, which would really be a fantastic thing, right? Because that would be there all the time, running all the time. So that one, I'm particularly excited about that. We're looking at some flag signs that could go out on Sunday mornings and be put back, because we can't leave those out all the time, just because the Y won't let us do that, but also because you have to mow the grass, right? So we have to be able to move those signs. I do want to point out something that if you look closely at the Sulphur Grove Church part of these. It's going to look an awful lot similar to what was on the website that Skip showed us earlier, right? This is part of that consistency that we were talking about. So we tried to use that here as well. Okay, Barry, we can go on to the next one. So for the, we've been looking at a number of options here. Gary has been instrumental in helping out with our road signs along Taylorsville, right out here outside the Y. The brick sign that's out there is really not, it's not conducive to reading it as you're going by. By my calculation, driving by the church, driving by any sign that you see, you have probably 1 to 2 seconds to gather what's on that sign, and that's all you can see. Okay, this isn't a 55-mile-an-hour road either. That's going 35, right? Maybe 1 to 2 seconds to gather what's on that sign. So additionally, it goes into the sidewalk, and so there's a lot of reasons to move that. So the plan is to take the top off of that sign and put it onto the concrete base where the flagpoles are. It'll fit between the flagpoles on purpose. So we want to move the top of that to keep that history and put it where we, still have that with us. And we're looking at then, can we take the red sign, the big red sign out here, it's like 10, 12 feet long, 15 feet long. I don't know about you, but you can't see it when you're driving by because it's facing the wrong direction. And it's pretty far off the road too. So again, if you're driving down the road, maybe at night, it's lit up, so maybe at night you might be able to see that. But during the day, you really don't. You really don't. So we've looked at a couple of options there. Could we pick that sign up and just rotate it 90 degrees? That's one thing that we've considered. We're also looking at, and you see just some kind of examples over here of what some other options would be. A pedestal sign, a sign with a nice big brick base on it that would be, more in the style of the church building. Possibly having electronic. We'd really like to put an electronic sign out there because it would be much easier for us to, again, convey that changing message that would be then consistent across all of our platforms. So really would like to put an electronic sign out there. We're still looking at the costs of that. It's not going to be cheap, but we gotta get our options out there so that we can study it and make informed decisions. A couple other things were, a few things with the enter and exit signs in the parking lot. We want to make those double-sided, make them bigger so they're easier to see. Again, not really facing the right direction either. So a few things like that we're looking at too. On the outside of the building here, we have door numbers. That's really only useful if you're a member here. I'll tell you, I've been here since 2004. I'm part of the trustees. I'm on the signage team. I couldn't tell you what any of the door numbers are. I can't. So it's useful if you're telling somebody, come to this door, I'll meet you at this door number. But personally, if somebody just says that, I'm going to drive around and, okay, there's that door number. That's the one I need to go to. So we're looking at how do we put some more permanent signs in. So, on the driveway, on the long side of the building, putting a main entrance sign over there with an arrow pointing in the right direction. Putting some, possibly some white lettering on the outside of the doors so that as you're coming up to it, you can see, sanctuary or main entrance or activity center or things like that. Trying to make it stand out as much as possible. I think it's still important to keep the door numbering there for deliveries and for meeting somebody, that sort of thing. But that's still something that we're looking at a little bit. Out here where the handicap entrance is, where the prayer pole is, or the peace pole, putting in one of those signs that has, different directional signs on it, main entrance, gathering area, sanctuary, main entrance, activity center, pointing to the right directions to those. I think you can go on to the next one then, Barry. Thank you. At the corner where the handicap parking is, over there, at the corner of the activity center, there's a little rusty white sign down there. We want to get rid of that and replace it with a nice one. And so you can't really quite read what's on that from here, but it tells you that the main entrance accessible entrance is that way, the activity center accessible entrance is that way, and it's right at the corner where you cannot help but see it if you're driving in, right? Driving through the parking lot, it's one way. You have to get to that sign before you can see. You're either parking in those spots over there, or you're parking in these spots over here, and you know which door you're going to. Putting a sign on the outside of the activity center accessible door, right now it's just a door. Have anybody looked at that? There's nothing on it at all. You wouldn't even know that it's a door, right? There's nothing there. So we need to put a sign up that says what that door is. Some signs for the Holden Chapel doors, recognizing those don't get used as much, but if you're coming here to a wedding or something like that, maybe it's in the chapel, you probably don't know anything about this place. So we want to get some good signs up indicating Holden Chapel where the entrances are for that as well. Okay, the next page. This doesn't quite do this justice on the projector here. But like I was talking about, our coach has helped us pick out some possible color schemes that we could use. So what we've got here is 4 different color schemes. You can't really see this, but it says Zone A, B, C, D. And so we would use different color schemes for each of the 4 different levels inside the building. So we've moved on, we're now inside this building. So each of the floors would have a different color scheme for the signs, dark background, light text on it. That's the most visible way, without also making it very difficult to read. Like if you do white text on a black background, that can actually be harder for you to read than what we're talking about here. So this is where our coach has been phenomenal, because all this kind of stuff, she knows all this stuff. She's been able to help us, pick out the right fonts, pick out the right colors. So it's really great stuff. And she tried to coordinate these with the existing colors that are in the building too, so that the signage team isn't gonna come and recommend that we repaint the entire inside of the building. We talked a lot about the fact that there are like 3 or 4 different colors on all the walls inside this building, and how it'd be nice to get those consistent over time. But also that the color schemes that we have here will work with what we have now, and would also work if we end up, painting eventually over time, painting all the walls the antique white that we have kind of in the newer area. Okay, the next one. So here's an example. You can kind of see a couple of different styles, but this would be a large sign. This would probably be something that's maybe 4 or 5 feet tall, that would be on the wall over the ramp. And then you can see the inserts in there. Even if you can't quite read that, hopefully you can see the different colors of the different directions. So this would be like our main wayfinding sign. You walk into the gathering area, you're going to see this, arrows going up, arrows going down. Are you trying to find a restroom? It's down. Are you trying to find the office? It's up. And the color scheme then of each of those signs matches the color schemes of the signs that are going to be on that floor. So subconsciously you might not, or consciously you might not realize that, but subconsciously you're going to see, okay, I see this sign and it's this color, and when you get there, you're in the right place, because you've seen that color before. It was on the sign. You get there, oh, there's the sign. It's the same color. I know I'm in the right place. Additionally, we would use some of these colors as accents potentially in like hallways. So if you've got like a header over a door, for example, the door that goes between in the lower hallway, you're walking toward the activity center here, you get halfway down, but when you transition from old building to new building, there's a kind of a plain header over that door, right? We could paint that header the same color as the signs that are on that level. And again, it's reinforcing that scheme, that wayfinding scheme. I know I'm in the right place because this is the color of this level. We went through the entire building. We found all the different places where we would want to put individual signs for rooms, and also individual sign, sort of submaster signs, like at the bottom of the ramp. we had 5 different indications all saying, you get to the bottom of the ramp, you're looking, and there's this sign that says all of these 5 things are this way. Okay, the next page then, please. Again, some more examples of this. Going up the oddball stairs, where there's, the stairs that go up to the office and the stairs that go down to the lower level, or if you want to go over here, you can go down the ramp to the lower level. So I love our building, right? It's got character. But if you're new here and you don't have any idea about that, right? So you go up there and you get up to that landing, you're halfway up or down the stairs. Where am I going to go from here, right? So again, we need to have something right there that reinforces, okay, now I know I'm now going to continue going up, or, oh, nope, I guess I took a wrong turn, no, I need to go down, right? So you can see some of that in the upper left corner there. Down by the elevator, having a wayfinding sign saying, okay, the activity center is this way, there's more restrooms that way, that sort of thing. So, you kind of get the idea that there's the big master sign in the gathering area, and then as you get to intersections in different parts of the church, then you've got these sort of subsets of signs that have maybe 2 or 3 or 4 things on them saying this way, that way. And then when you get to the particular room you're wanting to get to, right, there's a sign on it. All the color schemes match. You've got the room numbers and in some places the actual purpose of that room, right? That makes sense for things like kitchen, activity center, that sort of thing, right? We're not necessarily going to put function on all the classrooms or something like that, or maybe we say classroom. Right? There's little details like that we haven't quite got worked out yet. The exact text that's going to go on every single sign in the building, right? We haven't got that far yet, but we have made really good progress here. I think that's the last page, or is there one more? Yes, the next steps. So we've got this scheme together now, and we're already looking at pricing for signs along the road. We are going to, prepare yourselves, we're going to make some mock-ups. And we're going to put mock-ups around the whole inside of this building that would be more or less the right colors, the right fonts, probably as much as possible the right size, even if we have to go and print something that's 3 feet by 5 feet, to put in the gathering area. We really want to try this. We want to put mock-ups in the building, and then we want to go and we want to bring in our friends that have never been here before, and we want to see if they can find their way around. That's the total truth, right? I'm telling the truth here. We actually want to try that. We want to bring in people that have never been in this building before, and we want to ask them, can you find such and such a place, and see if they're able to do it. And if they can, that's great. If they can't, then we need to reevaluate our scheme a little bit. So that is our next step, and hopefully we'll be seeing that happen pretty soon. That's vague enough, right? Pretty soon. Yeah, I think that's about it. That was a lot to go through. There's actually far more information than that when you get into all the little details of it. I'm more than happy to share the details with anybody who's interested. But I tried to pare it down actually for what I showed you tonight. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Would you like me to send that PDF file to you when I send you the link? Okay, I'll attach that as well. Now, I don't know how. I went down the list. I don't know how I didn't get signage in there. Did I forget anyone? Okay, I apologize for that. First of all, give yourselves a round of applause. I just know by design, Marty and I were only on a couple of the MCCI teams, as this is supposed to be primarily laity driven. And, I know how much time those teams have put in, and I can't imagine the amount of time the rest of you put in as well. So thank you for your hard work. And to follow up with Ryan, next steps, well, simply finish your team's work. And I've got ASAP. Now, that can mean as soon as possible, or it can also mean as soon as practical. I know that some of these things are still going to take some time, but some of the things we want to implement this stuff as quickly as we can, but also we want to do our due diligence and so forth and go through all the proper steps, especially signage. You got to check with the city, and I know you guys have been doing that, to make sure we're within the setbacks and all that kind of good stuff. And if your plan is going to need to be approved by the trustees and/or church council, get those plans ready. If you have any questions, you can talk to me about that, and I can, or Amy or Jim, about whether or not what you're wanting to do. Probably most of what we're going to do, anything with the building, things like that, are going to have to go through that review process, especially if you need money. Like to remodel or buy signs, that's obviously going to have to go through church council. And that is where our time for questions and suggestions and modifications can be suggested, is at that step. It's 8:28. I'm really proud of you. You've done well. I thought it would probably be 9 o'clock. So I'll finish up here real quick. And again, just that reminder that some changes may need trustees and church council approval, and then make it happen. Make it happen, because part of your team's prescription team responsibility is implementation. Making now certainly we can get other people to help you with that, but it's not just a plan, but it's also to make it happen. So. I do want to ask you this. We did, Jay graciously came and recorded this for us, Jay Hedge. Do you think this is something that the congregation would be interested in hearing? Okay, all right. I think what we'll do is we didn't live stream this because, quite frankly, I don't want to get in the habit of live streaming meetings. Jay has been very gracious in the time he gives the church in streaming services, streaming funerals, and I certainly don't want to put the burden of him streaming meetings as well. So, okay, then I'll make sure that once it's ready to go, I will communicate that to the congregation. They can find out where we are. Any final comments or just general questions, not specific questions, but general questions? Oh, you're welcome. By the way, I'll get to you, before my feeble mind forgets, I've been wanting to say this. Marty's not blowing off tonight. Marty's out of town at a meeting. So that's why Marty's not here tonight. I want to make sure you knew that he's not here for a reason. Jim?
I just wanted to say, Mary basically gave all the information about maximization with the staff. SBRC has already been working on it, because we were approved at council to go ahead. And we now have, Marty has established 5 job descriptions for the various people that were, jobs that you had stated.
Yes.
And I think we are in a decision to look at congregational care, perhaps as a part-time.
Yes.
So, just for your information, and then we need to work with the committee and make this happen at our next meeting, basically approve it and work on it.
Okay, anything else? And I'll pray us out. All right, let's pray. Oh God, I give you thanks for these who've given of themselves to make our church even more effective in making disciples of Jesus Christ for the transformation of the world. Father, we thank you for the MCCI process. For Lord, sometimes it takes another set of eyes, a set of eyes from that's outside the church to really take a look at and make suggestions. Just like signage, for example. Most of us know where everything's at, so we don't really think about that. But Lord, we want to make this place a welcoming place where people can come and feel comfortable and get around. And Lord, just we want, and like the remodel of the gathering area, Lord, we do want them to feel like it's home when they stepped in. Lord, this church has such great gifts of hospitality. I hear that again and again from visitors. And Lord, we just want to step that up even another notch so that there's no doubt when a person comes to Sulphur Grove, they know they've found a place where they can be a part of community and be a part of your family. So Father, just continue to bless our humble efforts as we move forward and strive to be as effective as we can be, reaching people in the community of Huber Heights for Jesus Christ. It's in his name we pray. Amen. All right, thanks everyone.